Take a Deep Breath by Christina M. Ward. The world is on edge. We are told where we can breathe and how to do it carefully to avoid the minuscule virus that can wreak havoc in our lungs. But the air in here feels so tight, so not my own. It is the same air that happily moved through my home and my lungs before isolation, but now it is stale, unwelcome. I try to read through Facebook this morning, but there are too many words, ugly words, hateful words, people being the ugliest of people. We all need to just take a deep breath, one with the scent of dandelions and fresh-cut grass, the scent of birdsong and spring springing right up out of the ground unnoticed while we bitch and moan and complain. Nature breathes, so should we. Inhale the scent of hope and hold it in your lungs. Hold it until you think you might burst. Inhale the goodness, the light of each day, movement toward inner stillness, a freedom no one can take. Perhaps this moment is here to reveal what you, what we, what I am made of. Resilience or dependence, gratitude and resourcefulness, or a sense of entitlement spoiled beyond reason. Challenges deepen our experience. They uncover the ugliness within so we can heal it. Today, I'll avoid the Facebook wall, the public forums. I can't take in the warble of words, the cesspool of whine. The human wail of discomfort is deafening to me. Take a deep breath. This moment will pass. Take a deep breath. This moment will pass. Take a deep breath.
Now hear the gospel. Jesus said, "The kingdom of God is as if someone would scatter seed on the ground, and it would sleep and rise night and day, and the seed would sprout and grow. The sower does not know how. The earth produces of itself first the stalk, then the head, then the full grain in the head. But when the grain is ripe, at once the sower goes in with the sickle, because the harvest has come." Jesus also said, "With what can we compare the kingdom of God? Or what parable will we use for it? It is like a mustard seed, which when sown upon the ground is the smallest of all the seeds on earth. Yet when it is sown, it grows up and becomes the greatest of all shrubs, and puts forth large branches so that the birds of the air can make nest in its shade." Using many parables like these, Jesus spoke the word to them as much as they could understand. Everything was spoken in parables, but Jesus explained everything to the disciples later when they were alone.
So in place of a solo reflection tonight, we'll have an extended community reflection. We've been doing this sort of throughout the pandemic to kind of lighten the load of offering a reflection and having more opportunity to share with one another. So we have a couple of reflection questions in the Prezi or in the worship leader sheet, whichever one you have. And so feel free for anyone to jump in with using the reflection questions or just your own reflections on the readings or anything else that's going on. After a while, Lauren will move us into open space. I also realized that maybe I should have read the reflection questions just in case you're an auditory listener. So in the parable of the mustard seed, one of the one of the things that comes up in theological discussion about it is the unexpectedness of the growth of the mustard seed, its sturdiness in order to hold wildlife. And so the reflection questions are what has been growing unnoticed in this COVID-tide season for you? What has been surprising to you? And what unexpected branches have sprung forth to offer respite to the unlikely?
Do we just jump in? Hey, yeah. What sprung forth? Early on in the pandemic, I was let go from my job just on a account of not being able to bring in enough business. It was pretty common at the time. Something that sprung forth, I suppose, is the fact that I'm quite all right now. Things have been just fine. I'm not nearly at the place where I was at the time I got let go in terms of making income or what have you, but I'm a lot happier. I have a lot more free time, and I'm making quite enough as it is to be happy and to pay the bills. So I'm doing all right. Thank you all for listening.
Yeah, I think for me, what's been surprising is there was this phase where people were just starting to get vaccinated, and I was, like waiting for more people to get vaccinated. And like every now and then, it'd be someone that I would know would be vaccinated. And I was just like ready for more people to be vaccinated so we can just like get back to normal or closer to normal. And then like in this place where like it's summer and we can do things outside and more and more people are vaccinated and things are moving closer to normal, and then realizing like I'm not happy with normal, and I don't think I was happy with normal before the pandemic. I was just dealing with it better or just sort of used to it. And even something as small as like having to get up and go downtown to go to the office, I'm like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to print out these bulletins. Let me just email it to you and you can print it out. But like, I have to go into the office tomorrow just to print out bulletins, but I would rather just work from home. So that's just been surprising. It's just like, because of this disruption, normal is just not okay with me anymore, and what I want is different than what normal was, even though it was completely fine and adequate before. So I don't know like exactly like where to go from here, but that's just been surprising that the disruption of COVID is just showing me that I wasn't all that happy about normal to begin with, and what I want is just more than going back to what was before.
I pulled over so I can share with y'all. I am in the car, but I'm not actively driving. I am preaching on this text this week at Grace. It's my first sermon after ordination, and I've been thinking a lot about the parable of the mustard seed. It turns out that carrot seeds are the same size as mustard seeds. And at Grace, we started a community garden to grow food for the food pantry in town in Newton. And my first 2 rows of carrots were planted by very enthusiastic but novice gardeners, young gardeners. And it turns out that when carrots sprout, they look like weeds. And it's very hard to tell what is a weed and what is a carrot until the carrot's been, out of the ground for about 2 or 3 weeks. And I've been reflecting on the sort of newness that comes with the kingdom of God, and how sometimes it's hard to separate what's a carrot and what's a weed, or the wheat from the tares, or whatever agrarian metaphor you want to go for, but that the weeds aren't necessarily bad, they're just different. And I'm not entirely sure how to really condense it, but I've just been thinking a lot about mustard seeds, carrot seeds, and the messiness of new growth in this time.
Hey everyone, I have some thoughts. And
We can hear you, Derek, I think.
you can? Can you hear me, everyone? Okay, thanks. Because I thought for some moment my settings were weird, because this has happened to me before, but at least, well, now I'm talking. So I had two thoughts. The first thought was that one unexpected thing is how COVID has rearranged our priorities, whether someone has lost family members, or you couldn't travel to visit with your family members, or you had to find a chosen family, or you realized who was your true family, or you realized that income or these other things, other plans may not have been what you, things that you thought were priorities turned out to be not actually a priority, and other things you didn't realize were important now actually are important. I think there's a lot of critique of capitalism that we've learned over the past 14 months. And I think a lot of that is unexpected. We didn't realize that, oh, we were taking this for granted, or we didn't realize this, or how some other feature actually makes a lot of sense, and we should do it to make things accessible for all people, or things that the disability community has always been asking for. Now everyone realizes the value of some of those things. There's just so many things there that we have learned. Another thing that I was that surprised me, and maybe I shouldn't have been surprised, was how much the pandemic has become a politically divisive thing. I would have predicted that some external attack on our people, we would get people on board with it, but then it became masks and vaccines somehow became political, and I don't know how that happened, but that was something surprising.
Yeah, I think likewise for me, the COVID being wrapped up in our darndest attempt at a racial reckoning, kind of unfolding all of the white supremacist culture that I've lived fairly blindly to, because I have the privilege to do that. And so even recognizing a post a year apart at the beginning of the pandemic, I was just so excited to do new things, to be a new church. I'm still excited to do that, but in a different, very, very drastically different way. I just felt like this is our time. Let's create just a bunch of stuff. And then as the pandemic went through, and a year later, seeing that post on my Facebook page, I just felt like I was a fool and I was blind, and I really just wanted a nap. And we should have just stopped. I think that production is not just consumeristic, but is part of a white supremacist culture that really kept me blind, just basing all of my value on the production, and getting me excited about it. And then going through this year and reevaluating all of those values, and having my eyes opened again and again to systems that I was unaware of. And I still don't fully, grasp it, but I'm trying desperately to, and really just trying to stop the mass production of white supremacist culture has been one of the things that that has been, I guess, surprising to me. I don't know if it's surprising, but it's certainly been potent.
I feel like for me, a lot of the activists and communities I worked with, the pandemic happened, everything just stopped, and like necessary conversations, things that people were dealing with, things we needed to figure out, like everything was frozen. It was really weird. And yet, like, there's been this time of germination, this time for people to figure things out while surviving. And as somebody who lived in Lakota country for a number of years, I'm very sensitive to the weather. And I felt like that. I don't know if you got the storm out there in the Boston area, but there's a powerful storm that rolled through here, Lenape-Hooking this week. And it felt like yesterday kind of circuits were closing and important conversations that needed to happen were sort of ready. So it's interesting. I think I'm grateful for that. I hope that I have the strength and the wisdom to address some things I need to, both in my own life and the people I care about. And I'm just trying to listen to the spirit this month of wild weather. So thank you.
I started a new job shortly before the pandemic, and like the role I was in like evolved a lot over the first like few months of the pandemic. So like the whole and I started actually getting medicated for my ADHD. So the pandemic is like all tied up with like the work I'm doing and my brain working differently and all kinds of things. And it's very strange because some of the stuff that's like happened has been awful, of course, and some of it has been not. And it's a bizarre combination, I guess.
I was looking back at the passage again, Mark 26:34, 26:34. I'm struck by some parts of it, like the sower does not know how, and the earth produces of itself, etc., etc. This idea that there are, as we found out during the pandemic, so many aspects of our lives, such a large percentage of who we are and what goes on from day to day that we have zero control over and do not understand and do not get to dictate. And obviously, we know that doesn't always work out for the best, but it seems like every so often it does.
I just wanted to comment on how much I love this poem. And there's just so much beautiful language in it. But what it is making me think of is the thing that happened for me during the pandemic, that like my work involves like letting people experience nature. And I got to experience nature more myself because of the pandemic. And like I started taking walks in my kind of suburban feeling neighborhood, which I'd always sort of had a disparaging attitude about. And I've learned to love parts of my neighborhood and like learn where the really pretty trees and watch all of the plants and trees change throughout the seasons and feel so much more connected to the natural world immediately surrounding me than I did before, which is it's a really nice change in my attitude about my place, and it's really helped me
in my work too, in the way I talk with people about it and helping people, take a deep breath, just smell the dandelions in the fresh grass and just breathe and be in that space without trying to change it. So that's what I'm thinking about. Thank you.